Yeah.
Hi, kids.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
girls. I've never heard him.
Oh.
Can you hear me in back? Just kidding. You know,
How do you follow that, right?
yeah. You know the kid that your parents told you not to hang around with? It's really such not a good idea to try to be a parent and try to tell your kids who to hang around
Right.
with, because it just doesn't work. And
Right.
in fact, the people that I was told not to hang around with were the very people that I wanted to be with,
Yep.
because they were more adventurous, they always got in trouble, and all the things that I liked. So still, after I left home, and I was 22 and I was living in Hawaii. And I lived in Waikiki in an apartment with a few guys, and there was a guy who used to visit us all the time named Bill. And we were all long-haired hippies. I was 22. The other guys that I hung around with were anywhere from 20 to 23. And this guy, Bill, though, was in his 30s, and he had been booted out of the Navy, and he liked hanging around at our house, and he had this combed straight-up steel wool hair, and whereas we had this long cascading stuff. But he hung around us a lot, and he was a very impulsive guy, kind of a Tourette's type of person, and would say anything. He had no editor between his brain and his voice, and so I was working for an organization that was a lot like Manpower. You'd go down there in the morning, and they would give you a job, and I always got great jobs because I was this big, healthy guy, and I wasn't hungover every day like most of them were, and so they always gave me the great jobs. Well, a job opened up across the island on the windward side of Oahu, a town called Kaneohe, in this enormous cemetery. And what our job consisted of was we'd show up in the morning in cutoffs, in zoris. That was it, because we didn't need anything else to wear. No shirts. We'd show up like that, and they would give us a pair of clippers and a little brush. And we went around the graveyard, clipping around the plaques that were set in the earth. There were no tombs above the ground, so looking at it from a distance, it looked just like a golf course. It was just beautiful, rolling hills, these green hills with tropical stuff all around, and down below us was the ocean. It was just fabulous setting. So I was paired up with Bill, because Bill also worked for Manpower. So the two of us would go out in the mornings, and so the very first thing he would do. Now, I was just 4 years out of living at home. Okay, so Bill and I would go walking around, finding where we were going to start in the graveyard that day. He would immediately go to a grave that had fresh flowers on it and start taking some of the fresh flowers off the grave and weaving them into a lei for himself for the day. And of course, I was standing there aghast. You know, you don't take flowers off somebody's grave. I mean, it was terrifying to me. And but he would do it. And then we'd go to work, and we'd sit in the sun there. Sometimes we'd smoke a joint first, and the sun's coming down on us, and it's this fabulous setting. Well, here would come the little golf cart with the foreman. And he was this very polite Asian man, and he would always, "Good morning, boys. You know, how are you today? And can I get you anything?" And I would always see him look right at Bill's lei. You know? Excuse me. But he was too polite to say anything.
Wow.
But I knew that he knew where those flowers had come from. So one morning we were sitting there. The job lasted about a week, and so we were clipping the grass around these headstones, and we saw this beautiful egret go swooping down through the sky. It was just this gorgeous, soundless creature, and we looked at each other and sort of unspoken, we've got to follow this guy. So we set our stuff down, and we went running into this little woods that was next to the cemetery. Well, we didn't find the egret, but within 100 yards, we ran into a small wall, about maybe 3 feet high, that guarded a pineapple plantation. So Bill, of course, jumps right over the fence into the pineapple plantation. There's one thing you learn if you move to Hawaii. The very first thing you learn is you don't steal pineapples. Dole and all these other food companies have laid down the law. If you steal pineapples, you really get in bad trouble. Well, this meant nothing to Bill. You know? So Bill would go, come on, man. All right. And I'd get over the wall, and he'd go, I got a knife here, man. Let me cut into a couple. And so he'd cut a couple of these big, beautiful, ripe pineapples. and we'd sit down and he'd slice the top off and shave the sides in both of us, and we would take this enormous yellow thing, this cord, and just go and just let the juice run down our chest like barbarians, and we would sit up against the wall on the pineapple plantation side, so that we were vulnerable if somebody were to come by. We would get in trouble, but Bill did not care. And the whole time I'm sitting there looking around and eating this pineapple, and Bill says, "Oh, this is great! Oh, man, great job." So. After we'd have our pineapple every day, of course, and then the day would go by, and it would just the hours would just go from 1 hour to the next, these long, long hours, but Bill had figured out that, and this was his motto: burials are where it's at. So I nudged him. I said, "Look, man, down there, a couple hundred yards, there's a huge, huge graveyard, and we could see some limos pulling up." He said, "Come on." And I'm like, "No." And "Come on, man, come on, burials, where it's at." And we sneak down. We're like Wile E. Coyote going from tree to tree. And we get down to maybe 50 yards away, and we're spying at it, and it's an enormous crowd, huge crowd of people. And he could hear them, and it was Japanese people. And he had been a sailor and had been around the world, so he recognized the language. And he said, "All right, we got to watch them, And there were 3 daughters, apparently. They were all dressed similarly. They all were dressed in black, and tall, slim, beautiful women. And they were sitting front and center. And the ceremony went on, and Bill he said, "Come on." And I said, "No, I'm drawing the line. I'm staying here. If you need to go up there, go ahead." So he did. And he's sneaking up, and he's gesturing back at me like, and trying to tell me all these things, and I'm scared that somebody's going to see this nut, And at one point, the 3 women reach underneath their chair and get this offering, and the 3 of them walk up together. And Bill runs back to me and he says, "You're not going to believe this, man. You're not going to believe what that is." And I said, "I don't want to know what it is." And so they set it on the top of the grave, and everybody gets in their limos and drives away. He said, "Come on." He's pulling me, "Come on." And honest to God, I was raised Catholic. Graveyards to me are sacred places. And if people especially are there burying somebody, that's pretty sacred to me. And I didn't like messing with the whole idea of somebody burying somebody and A, spying on them, B, making up stories about them, which Bill did endlessly, and then C, messing with whatever was going on that grave. So he says, "You're not going to believe what they put on the grave." And I was like, "Oh God, what is it?" And he pulls it. It's a big McDonald's bag. And I immediately knew his intention. And he said, "That's their father's favorite food. He probably eats this every day, and he's up in heaven. He's going to eat this shit, And they bring it to him, and he's going to eat it. Well, why save it for him? Either that or the ants are going to get it. The fucking ants." That's what he said. "The fucking ants are going to eat this stuff." And he said, "Come on." And I said, No, you cannot touch that." Well, by the time I even said that, he had grabbed this big McDonald's bag, was wolfing into it, tears off the wrappers of this Big Mac, and he says, "Here, man, take half." And I'm, "No." And he's got the French fries, and he's and he's slurping down this chocolate shake. And I mean, honestly, like you people would be. I mean, I'm a normal person, and it's just my eyes were wide, and I couldn't believe it was grave robbing, And he said, "No, man, come on, you got to have some of this stuff. You ate the pineapples, but you wouldn't eat this. What's the difference, And I really believed that ethically, Bill had no difference in his head. It made no difference to him. Well, for the next 5 days on that job, those same ladies came out about the same time, 4 in the afternoon, when we're really hungry. And every day, and the empty bag is sitting right on the grave. And they walk up with the new one, and they set it down there, do some reverential things, and get back in the limo, and they drive away. And of course, Bill runs up, "Oh man, this is great!" And it's like free food every day. And the job finally, he did it every day. And the job finally ended. I have no idea what the daughters thought. I don't know if the daughters had this lovely, fanciful idea that indeed the father was coming down during the nighttime and was eating this food, which is what I really wanted to believe. But, you know, when we got back to our apartment in Waikiki, and Bill was telling this story, and he said, stupid Anderson, he wouldn't eat any of that. Now, right now, I guarantee you, we should go over there, because right now, them fucking ants are eating that McDonald's, you know? And, but, you know, I thought about it later, because really, for me, what the story is about is how I was so easily influenced by people. And I was just about to start the final cascade of my really, really dark years. And from about that year, 21, 22, all the way until my mid-30s, my life kept getting increasingly worse and worse and worse, and really got to crisis place. But when I would look back, finally, and able to look back with a different kind of perspective on my life, I remembered that there were just a few little moral places where I had had a small triumph. And I felt really good about not eating that McDonald's.